I want a divorce.
What? Why?
Actually, I'm taking over my boyfriend's company, so I don't need you anymore,
my wife said, with a look of triumph on her face. From my point of view, I was rather grateful that she confessed to me. Fine, here, divorce papers. I took out the divorce papers from a drawer and I handed them to her. My wife rolled her eyes. My name is Brian, a 30-year-old office worker. I've been married to my wife, Kathy, for 3 years. We met at a blind date, thrown by a mutual friend. My wife was very enthusiastic. I was attracted to her, too, and we started dating. We got along well, and after a year, I asked her to marry me and we got married. Kathy was also kind and cheerful. I thought if I married her, we'd have a happy life together. In fact, our married life was quite enjoyable, but after we got married, there were some things that were different from what I expected. My wife didn't do much housework, saying that she was too busy with her work. I guess it wasn't that surprising since we both had jobs, but
when I lived alone, I was too busy with work. I didn't cook for myself,
she said. That she rarely cooked for herself. She said that her mother-in-law used to come over and clean the house at appropriate times. So I always came home from work and did most of the housework. Sometimes I would try to casually appeal to my wife, but she would never try to help me. She never complained when I worked late and had dinner late. I was thankful for that. Other than not doing the housework, she was basically normal. We have enough conversation. Sometimes it felt like too much of a physical burden for me, but lately I've been buying prepared meals. I wasn't trying too hard, so I could make it work. I couldn't say that I was extremely happy, but I was enjoying my married life in my own way. Before I knew, my wife and I had been married for 3 years. I was hoping that our relationship would change if we had a child, but my wife couldn't get pregnant, so I wondered if there was something wrong with either of us. I suggested to my wife that we try some tests and fertility treatment, and my wife gave me a surprising response.
We don't need to have kids, do we?
What? I was surprised. I assumed she wanted to have children, but it's true that some people don't have children and spend time alone with their spouses. I'm sure there are couples who want that. Maybe that was just the case with my wife. Just in case, may I ask why?
What? Well, it just feels like too much trouble.
I must say that I was disgusted by these words, not because she had a good reason, but because it was so vague and random. But at the same time, I felt that even if we had a child like this, the child would be unhappy. I see, I get it. Then we will not have children, then. When I said this, my wife's face showed a look of relief. I thought she didn't want children that badly. I was very disappointed. Not only could I hope for a child, but I was doing most of the housework, and I didn't want to provoke my wife's pride, so I couldn't say it out loud, but I made a lot more money than she did. It was no exaggeration to say this, but I was mainly supporting this family. Furthermore, we didn't talk much as a couple these days. My wife didn't communicate with me as much as she used to. She was on her phone all the time, and on weekends, she often said that she was going for some drinks with her friends. She would often go out after noon, and I was always alone at home on my days off. On the weekdays, even if we had dinner together, we ate without talking, and the food didn't taste so good. If things continued like this, I might as well break up with her. I was having so much trouble in my marriage. And at such a time, I found out a surprising fact. It was a Saturday night. My wife was out drinking with her friends as usual. I received a message from one of my good friends. He said he and his wife were going out for a luxurious dinner. I was surprised to get the message out of the blue, but the content was even more surprising.
You know, your wife just walked into a restaurant with a man that I don't know.
I froze when I saw my wife's message. My wife was having an affair. We've never even been to a fancy restaurant with her. According to my friend, they didn't look as if they were on business or if they were friends. He said they looked like a couple. I was getting angrier and angrier with my wife, and all of this was making sense. How she didn't want to go through all the troubles of having a child, how she frequently went out for drinks with friends on the weekends, how she was always on her phone. Come to think about it, it was highly possible that she was having an affair. Why didn't I suspect it earlier? But I still didn't know if she was really having an affair or not. I immediately hired a detective to investigate. I still don't have any solid evidence of infidelity until I saw something that clearly and visibly showed infidelity. I decided to hold out just a little bit of hope. But reality can be cruel. The results of the investigation that I received from the detective a few weeks later were all conclusive proof of my wife's infidelity. I was shocked, as you can imagine. We've had a lot of differences recently, but I still loved her and I wanted to believe her, but she was deceiving me. I couldn't believe it. Why? How was it possible to have an affair so easily? and she seemed to be frequenting various high-end restaurants with her lover. Her clothes and bags seemed to be more expensive. Was she spending that much money to get her lover to like her? Then I remembered something. It was something my wife had been asking me to do for the past 6 months. She said that she wanted to send money to her parents-in-law, so she asked me to give her a little more money. Because my salary was higher than hers, she asked me for more support. It wasn't like I didn't like my parents-in-law. Also, my parents had already passed away, and I had no one that I needed to support financially, so I agreed. I'm sure she used the money to become the kind of woman that her lover liked. I was even more disgusted with my wife. I was wondering how much she was willing to use me. I was also angry at myself for not realizing that I had been deceived by my wife. I started to make preparations so that I can divorce my wife anytime I want. First of all, I needed to move. I would be reminded of her here, so I didn't want to live in this house anymore. I decided to look for a new place to live. I was busy with work, so it was hard to find a house in between. Still, while my wife was seeing her so-called friend, as usual, I visited a real estate agent and looked for a good room to live alone. After a month, I was able to find a new place to live. Now, I knew where I was going to live. All I had to do was revenge my wife. I hired a lawyer and prepared a lot of things. Then one day, my wife called me into the living room. She said she has something that she wanted to talk to me about. That's unusual, that you want to talk to me. My wife looked annoyed when I complained.
It won't take long.
I sat down on the couch as I was told, waiting for her next words. Then she smiled at me and said,
I want a divorce.
I was genuinely surprised that she would ask me for a divorce. I wondered, how was she going to go about getting a divorce? I didn't say a word, pretending I didn't know the truth. What? Why?
Actually, I'm taking over my boyfriend's company, so I don't need you anymore. Thank you for supporting me all these years. Not only did you make a lot of money, you've taken care of the housework as well. I mean, a housekeeper who always made money was great. I don't even need that anymore. I'm going to have a young, handsome husband, and also a promising future as a CEO. I'm going to be a winner in this life. I'm sorry for you. Don't hate me.
My wife said with a look of triumph on her face. From my point of view, I was rather grateful that she confessed to me. Fine, here, divorce papers. I took out the divorce papers from a drawer and I handed them to her. My wife rolled her eyes.
What? Are you not surprised? And when did you prepare these divorce papers?
You've been acting cold to me lately, so I knew we would be getting a divorce. It's better that you can get a divorce soon, right?
What?
My wife seemed surprised, but realized that it was better for her, so she started smiling.
I didn't know you were so understanding, but you've been a big help. Thank you for everything. Well, enjoy your single life.
My wife seemed to be having fun. I pretended not to be angry and spoke to her frankly. But I never thought you would become a CEO. Have you talked to your boyfriend's father?
Huh? Not yet, but according to my boyfriend, his father has decided that the woman his son chooses will take over as president of the subsidiary. It's a lingerie company for women, so now that I'm going to marry him, I'm going to be the president of the company.
I see. Well, I wish you all the best.
I'm already the happiest I've ever been in my life.
My wife seemed to be so excited. She had no idea of the hell she'd end up in after this. I silently watched her pack up her belongings and leave for her boyfriend. It was so hard for me not to laugh out loud. Until she left home. Then, after my wife moved out of the house, I sold the house right away and I moved out too. Now, it was time for me to revenge my wife. But what I was going to do was very simple. All I have to do was send a content-certified mail to my wife's and to the parents of her boyfriend. With this, my revenge against would be complete. All I had to do was wait for my wife to ruin herself. Sure enough, 23 days after I sent the content-certified mail, I received a phone call from my wife.
Hello? Hey, what have you done? Why did you send a content-certified letter to my workplace and his parents' house?
What? Why not? You committed adultery. It's natural that you would file a claim for compensation against your wife and her lover, and then you would file for divorce, right?
Hey, I thought you weren't mad at us anymore.
Are you stupid? What kind of fool easily forgives and steps down after being betrayed by the person he married?
How did you know where his parents lived?
I hired a detective to investigate the affair, even before you confessed, so I had information about your lover.
So that's why you knew about his parents' house.
I sent a content-certified letter to his parents. What happened? I asked with a grin, and my wife said,
That's right, you've caused so much trouble.
She remembered and got mad.
He didn't know I was married. That's why I was planning to leave you to be with him without telling him. Because you sent a content certified letter to his parents' house. His parents found out about the affair, and I'm in big trouble. He's furious that I haven't told him the truth. His father complained to the president of my company. I was fired for causing a big problem. His father's company was an important business partner to them.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
It's all your fault. You should take responsibility for it.
What are you talking about? You were the one who betrayed me and had an affair. I only made a legitimate request. I'll make sure you pay me my compensation.
Oh no, I was fired from my job. Of course I can't pay compensation.
I don't care. Get a job right away and pay me back little by little.
Don't be stupid. I'm going to your place right now and move in.
Do you know where I live?
What are you talking about? You still live in the house we bought, right?
You can only think in the way that suits your needs. I bought that house under my name, so I sold it already.
What? My boyfriend kicked me out of his place. Where should I go?
I don't know. You're an adult, so solve your own problem. I'm hanging up.
Hey, wait!
I didn't care about my wife's panicked voice. I hung up the phone and blocked the call. It all went as I had planned. I was so relieved that my wife lost everything. After that, I filed a claim for compensation through my lawyer. She's working part-time and living in a cheap apartment. She's trying desperately to pay the compensation. She tried to ask her parents for help, but I told them about the money she'd lied to me about. They were furious and said they're going to cut her off. Because of this, she was abandoned by her own parents, and it seems she's having a poor and lonely life. I, on the other hand, live comfortably in my new home. I am working very hard as well. Recently, I got a promotion and my salary went up even more. I'm thinking of taking up a new hobby and living a luxurious life. Trying to get a divorce secretly so that she could get married to a rich guy. How sneaky of her. But if that's the case, she shouldn't have said that she was taking over her boyfriend's company. Don't you think so? In the end, that kind of loose ends is what makes a scum wife so miserable, isn't it? I'm glad Daniel was able to get revenge on his scum wife. I hope he can marry a wonderful woman the next time. Thank you for watching. How did you like today's story? Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next story.